Hello everyone, thank you for tuning in and let's get started. So this video today is about arm balances, specifically the crow pose and variations of this pose. It does say beginners to advanced, and for the beginners part I will explain as clear as possible and with as many variations as possible so you can get your crow pose done. But you may find that as you progress through the video, you might not be able to do some of the exercises or postures, and that's fine. You can use this video as a kind of like a source material so that you can pick it up every now and then as you progress through your practice. But don't give up, practice daily or regularly, and I'm sure you will get it done. First we want to do is we're gonna start with a little bit of a warm-up of shoulders, arms and wrists. So we're going to sit in a comfortable position. We're simply going to crisscross the arms in front a few times. Make sure that as you go through your practice, you never hold your breath. You're always breathing comfortably. Nice and easy. Good. Now coming onto hands and knees, we're going to tuck the toes under. And with the heels high off the floor, you're going to sit on the heels. And we're going to take one palm on top of the other, keeping the arms straight. We're going to swing the arms up and down. And we're going to change the palm. So right palm on top and the next one left palm on top. Good. Next. In whatever posture is comfortable, palms together, interlace your fingers, nice and easy, turning the hands in circular motion. And then the other way around. Good, now shake your hands and your fingers. Now when we place our hands on the floor, it is important that you spread your fingers nice and wide. If you spread your fingers, you have a wider base of support, so it will be easier to balance. Don't have your fingers closed. And when you place the hands on the floor, make sure the hands are flush, flat to the ground. Your index fingers pointing straight in front. And then we're going to develop a pose so that the shoulders are on top of the wrists. The spine is nice and long and the knees are beneath your hips. And then we're going to go back. And then we're going to go forward. And as you go forward, press a little further, a little more into your fingertips. And you're going to get a nice stretch. And we're going to go back and forth. Go as far forward as you comfortably can. Make sure that you can feel that good stretch, but you're not hurting yourself. And obviously make sure you're breathing comfortably. Good for this one. For the next one, we're going to turn the palms outwards. And because you get a lot of more mobility as with the hands, with the fingers pointing outwards, we're going to bring the hands a little closer. And we're going to go back and forth, breathing comfortably. And then rest, and then give your hands a shake to release tension. I forgot to mention for this set I'm gonna use 2 yoga bricks. If you don't have bricks, you can use 2 books that resemble this kind of height, kind of like the thickness of your palm, perhaps. So then we're gonna sit on the heels. We're gonna separate the knees, and for this pose I'm gonna use the bricks. Although you don't have to. If you don't have the bricks, I'll show you how to do it without the bricks. Palms spread and walking the hands nice and long, so the arms are nice and long, and then lowering the head. If you want to increase the stretch at the shoulders, come into the fingertips. And this is where I use the bricks to give a little bit more stretch. And then the neck nice and long, the back of the neck nice and long. Take a couple of conscious breaths. Carefully come back. Good. So for the crow pose, always need to get a little bit of that core activated so you have a strong core to balance in the pose. So we're going to do a little bit of warm up the core. So we're going to lower ourselves carefully. I'm going to plant the feet on the floor. And then we're going to point the fingers to the sky. And then with an exhalation, we're going to lift the upper back of the floor. So the shoulder blades lift off the floor and you reach high to the ceiling. And as you inhale, you release back to the floor. We're going to go for 10. Inhale here, and then as you exhale, go up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 10. Take a moment to rest. Now, for the next round, the pose starts with the shoulder blades lifted. I'm going to point the fingers to the heels. So we're going to reach one side, one hand towards the heels or past. And then on the inhale, we're going to reach the other side. So breathe in and breathe out. We're going to go for 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 10. Take a moment here to rest. Now we're going to take the knees or the thighs towards the chest. I'm going to bring the thighs to touch, and I'm going to interlace the fingers to hold the legs. Relax your shoulders and your head, and then very gently pull knees to chest. Now we're going to take a deep breath, and as we exhale, we're going to again engage core to lift the shoulder blades off the floor, and we're going to hold here for a few breaths. So here's a few variations. 1, you just hold as it is. 2, extend the arms. So you're not holding your legs, but the legs have to be nice and strong to hold the pose, nice and tight. You're going to breathe here. And now, as you could see, if I put my arms like this, you could already see a little bit of that shape of that crow pose, just that I'm upside down. And then release your feet. To release tension on the neck, just gently move your head side to side. And then swing yourself up to sit. Now the basis for all arm balances is the plank pose. So we're going to go onto the plank and we're going to hold that plank for just about a minute. So remember, open hands, open palms, fingers broad. You're going to extend the legs one at a time. Go into a nice plank, coming to the balls of the feet. Now make sure that your hips are adjusted so that your tailbone lengthens in the direction of the heels and the pubic bone comes closer in the direction of the abdomen. And then very gently push to lift the space between the shoulder blades, and then breathe. We're going to take about 10 breaths here. And then carefully lower your knees one at a time. Come to sit and gently shake I'll show you a couple of one or two variations of the plank pose. Coming to the plank, and then we're going to lift one foot. I'm going to point the toes, lengthen. I'm going to breathe there. Stop the video and rest if you need, otherwise we go straight into the other side. Remember to lengthen tailbone to the heels, point through the toes of the lifted foot. Couple more breaths. And then gently rest. Shake the hands. The next variation is it's quite a lot harder. Don't worry if you can't do it. Just have it there in mind for practice as you develop your strength. So you're going to come into the plank. I'm going to bring one hand to the center. One variation. The other hand, the other arm extends to the side. Coming to the fingertips. I'm going to separate the feet nice and wide. Try not to change the posture of the body. Just lift the arm. Bring the hand to the back. What I mean is don't turn the body to the side. Hold here for a couple of breaths. And then carefully release, rest if you need, or we go straight into the other side. Other hand to the center and the other arm to the side on the fingers. Hold straight at the back. And then carefully lower, taking a little break, maybe shaking the hands. Whew. So let's get into the crow pose. I'm going to use 2 bricks for what? To place the head on the bricks. And when you put the bricks or anything that you're putting on to support your head, make sure that you place them some distance behind the hands. I see some people trying to bring them a little bit closer, perhaps because they're a little bit afraid of going further forward. But see that if you go forward, then you're going past the bricks. So make sure that your bricks are kind of like at least a hand away from the tips of your fingers. Now, where you put your arms or your legs in relation to the arms can differ, can change. So I'll show you the easier way. I think is the easier way is the inner thighs going to the arms, and that helps to keep the elbows in so that the elbows don't split out, because the legs are pulling in and the arms are pushing out. So hands in place. Also, don't have your hands too close to your feet, otherwise you find it difficult to lean forward. So some distance from the hands to the feet, and some distance from the hands to the bricks. Arms to the inner thighs, and we're going to lift the hips. I'm going to place the head on the brick. And then I'm going to try and lift the feet. Breathe there comfortably, and then carefully come back. Now you can repeat this movement a few times. The next goal would be to come into the pose and then lift back and stop yourself halfway in like this. Come into the brick, you lift, and then you move yourself back. If you fall, that's alright, you can come back. And then you lean back a little, lift your head. Falling down, come back. So repeat. Or perhaps just lifting the head of the bricks. Good. Come down, take a break. Now another way in which the bricks are helpful is to give us a lift at the back. So I'm going to place the bricks like this. One will probably be enough. So that I'm going to jump on the bricks. And then I'm already lifted from this position. So arms to the inner thighs, space between the bricks and your hands. Lean forward. You can hold it here or just lean forward a little bit more and try to lift one foot, maybe the other, and then maybe try to engage and lift a little high. And then carefully come down. Eventually, you will be able to do the pose without the breaks. Just take a little break. Now, as you progress, you might want to change the position of your legs in relation to the arms. You want to put your knee on the upper arm. I see some people putting it on the triceps, and that can hurt a little bit. I find it more useful, instead of going right into the middle of the arm, just going right to the edge of that joint. Yeah. So you come into the squat, arms in place, and then lean forward. And then with confidence, with an exhalation or with an inhalation, lean forward and then try to lift. Maybe one foot, maybe both. If you fall, it's alright, take a break and then come back. Leaning forward, lifting perhaps the other foot, maybe both. Remember to press through the tips of your fingers to try to hold that balance. And then gently come down. And then to release tension on the wrists, just give a little shake. Now, once you develop that ability to hold that pose, here's a few variations of the pose. One, you're going to come into the crow pose. You're going to lift one knee and carefully release the foot to the floor, like so. Come into the pose. Then you lift one knee and release. Then you do the other side. Come into the pose, lift your knee high, bring it in and release. Yeah. Eventually, you want to try to lift the knee, keep the leg in the air. Just lift up and then bring it back like this. Come to the balance. Lift, release. Lift, release. Take a break and repeat. With practice, as you get to learn that move, you can do rounds. You can do rounds of 2, rounds of 3, doing left, right, a little bit like this. Left, right, oops. Yeah? One round would be enough. If you can do more, great. Now, here's another variation, and that, of course, is a lot harder. So you're going to lift one knee, and you're going to bring the leg to touch the other, and then come down, like this. Lift your feet, and then one knee to the other, come down. Take a break, and do the other side. One knee to the other, and then come down. If you get tired, like I am probably now, just rest more. And eventually, you can do a few more rounds. The next step will be, as you can imagine now, one knee to the other, bring it back to place. Rest, and then do one knee to the other, bring it back to place, and rest. Like this. Into the pose. Touch, come back. Oops. To the other side, come into the pose. Touch, come back. Oops. Let's try again. Touch, come back. Yeah. Touch, come back. Yeah. Check. Good. A little break. Now here's another variation. Headstand to the crow pose. I'm just going to play a little bit of the headstand. Where do you put your head is very important. Make sure you don't put it towards the front, because your head will end up being like this, and that will create a lot of tension on the back of your neck, which might hurt. So make sure that the back of your neck is long, and then from your ears, draw a line up, and then this is where you put it. A little bit more towards the back than towards the front that you would expect. So head to the floor, excuse me, and then bring your hands back so that the wrists are below the elbows. Squeeze your elbows in, and then lift your knees. From here, legs in place. And then from here, what we're going to do is we're going to come out of the pose, nice and slow. Yeah. And then you repeat again. Head on the floor. Hands back. Lift up, put your legs in place. And then come back. Nice and slow. Now you see where I'm going with this. You want to come from the headstand and try and stop yourself halfway through, so you find your balance. Top of the head, hands, lift, press through your fingers slowly. And then release. Good. Release your hands, check them. Now let's try another variation from the crow pose to a pose which is called Lolasana, the pendant pose. This pose is basically you're here in this pose, but you're supported by your arms and your body is lifted off the floor. Let's start with the bricks, see if we can lift. So having the bricks on the floor might make it a little easier, because it gives you a little bit of leeway to push. So we're going to cross one leg. Then we're going to place the hands on the floor, and we're going to try and lift the hips high towards the sky. For the first variation, you may want to keep your toes on the floor. So with an exhalation, engage core, push with your arms, lift, and then you can do rounds of that. Now, to lift the whole body, lift your hips as you push and try to keep your heels glued to your hips. So as you lift your feet as you lift your hips, lift your feet as well. But try not to use momentum. So with the strength, so you lean forward a little bit, and then with an exhalation, yeah, you might not get too much lift, but that's okay. Just as long as you hover yourself just a little bit, you'll do the job. Yeah, and you can change the crossing of your legs. With an exhalation, lift. Good. Ease tension through your wrists. Now for the next one, we come into the crow. We bring the knees to touch at the center, and then as slow as you can, you're going to lower your shins to the floor, like this. Come to the pose, lift your feet, knees together, and lower. And with practice, you can generate that control to lower slowly. Let's do it one more time. Lift. And then knees together and lower. Okay. Moving through your shoulders. And then here's one last one. This can be quite scary. It's from downward facing dog, hop into a crow pose. If you feel scared that you might just have too much of a push and then so that you fall over, you can put a bunch of duvets, blankets, cushions, so that if you fall, you can just safely fall onto those. But make sure that if you're falling, you protect yourself by moving head away and trying to come into the side of the body, into the shoulder. It goes like this, downward facing dog. So what you do is you lift your heels, you bring your hips towards your heels, and then you get a push and try to find that balance, yeah? Confidence, control. Not that hard, right? Downward dog. Prepare yourself, look forward. Good. So like I said, you might not be able to do every single thing, and that's okay. Just have those poses that you find really difficult as a point of reference that you can always reach towards, and eventually you will be able to do it. Thank you for tuning in, and I will see you next time.